We have a guy who's be entering the seminary soon. He is his name is Ricky. He's a longtime work camper. Pretty awesome guy. I've known him. I've run into him here a few times, but we got talking this for whatever reason this work camp, and I think that I was really inspired by his story. So we want to share it with you a little bit. So please welcome Ricky to the stage.
So, hold on one second. I got to set a timer for myself because they gave me a microphone that's dangerous. So I'm going to assume Steve said good things because I couldn't hear a word. But this is my place, WorkCamp, man. Woo, I'll tell you what. Listen, we got to keep the cheering to a minimum because they ain't give me much time, okay? So clap in your head. Be like, hey! Okay, that's enough. So, in 2005, it was my first work camp. I was a rising senior. Fast forward to 2019, I'm now in my 13th work camp. I've been, hey, what'd I just tell you? We ain't got time for this. So, I've been a work camper, security, driving people. I was an adult crew leader. I am now. I've been on stage before. I mean, this place, I love it because I genuinely feel for a lot of people, this is one of the few places where you really get to try out what it's like to be you. Right? So I'm wearing this, and I'm not the stupidest one dressed here. I mean, like, you got to realize I was greeted by a shark and a peanut when I came back. Like, this is an impressive place. So I think it's fair to say we all have very different experiences when we're here, but obviously one of the most impactful ones for just about everybody is adoration. And I remember years where I'm in the corner, right, because I didn't know it was all right to cry. I'm a man, and crying, sometimes you got to fake it. Till last night, fast forward, man, I am done. I'm like, oh! And I'm like, Jesus, yes. So there were times, though, where I was in adoration, right? Jesus was here, right? I'm not Jesus, but I look as good as him. But Jesus was right here. And there were times where I felt nothing. And I'm looking at Jesus, I'm like, bro, I see you, see me, see you. This person over here having a moment, what's up? I had nothing. That wasn't the case last year. See, let's rewind real fast. So in 2010, I was going to a vocations retreat. I was a senior at George Mason University. And, woo, yes, okay, that's enough. And I was driving up to the San Damiano. If you haven't been there, it's in freaking middle of nowhere. They give you, half the retreat is driving to the retreat center. And on the way up, I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what, Jesus, man? I paid money for this retreat. You better be calling me to the priesthood. I think this is it. Adoration is the first thing. I remember slipping in because, I was late. So I slipped in the back, and I'm kneeling, and I'm staring at Jesus. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, bruh, 2 hours for this? You couldn't have done this at my house? Right? So I go through the retreat. Long story short, nothing. I left thinking, that's cool. I like women. Marriage is just fine. Not a problem for me. Then fast forward to Adoration 2016. Now, a little recap of my life. 2016, by this point, I was working on my second master's because I'm that smart. I owned a house. I had my own car. I'm living with my brother on the way to and from work. My parents lived there, and near them is my sister and whole family. By the way, I love my family. This was a blessing, right? That had to be 2 words. It was a blessing, right? Because I was so joyful. Sometimes I'd sing, and that's when he told me in adoration for the first time. He was like, hey, Ricky, you remember what you was talking about in 2010? Yeah, you should try that again. I said, hold on, brother. You had your chance. Not today, sir, no. You better find another message for me. He came back in 2017, WorkCamp, adoration. He said, Ricky, I'm back. I said, no, Jesus. No, Jesus, no. Please, no. Don't do that. Then 2018 came. See, when people say they heard the call, I was like, what does that, right? You read the Bible, it's talking about when Jesus was baptized, God opened the heavens and said, this is my son. I said, that's the kind of call I'm looking for. I'm an important dude. You know, this is what I'm waiting for in this moment. But see, God, you know, when you think in your mind, you have a mind voice, right? It's sometimes good to you, oftentimes bad to you. But you've got that voice in your head. See, God used that voice to call me. And see, I share with you my story, not that I expect you to have this same story, but I share with you this story in hopes that you will begin to look for yours. Because see, God's voice in that moment sounded very much like mine. But he hijacked my mind at that time. And he said, become a priest, become a priest. Become a priest, become a priest. And I wish I was kidding with you for 40 minutes straight. The brother never shut up. He was like, become a priest, become a priest. And I said, no. And I remember, because listen, slightly rewind, I asked a girl out before work camp. We couldn't even go on the date till after work camp. I said, Jesus, no. She's cute. She can cook. I said, you outside your mind today, son. That's a no. That's a no. And so I went on the date, and it was exactly as expected. It was pleasant, but I knew that I was ignoring him. And I couldn't do that. Honestly, to convince myself, I told myself I can't do that to her. Because if I continue this, knowing what God has called me to, that means I'm messing up her path because I don't belong in it. And so for the next few months, no joke, I was very sad. I said, no, man. No, why? Just no. And he put people in my life to ask me questions. And so one teacher out of nowhere is like, hey, shuts the door behind him. Let me ask you this. What you gonna be doing in 5 years? I said, what on earth is that? Who are you? Right? So I was like, I get, you know, God, he's calling me the priest. Oh man, that'd be so great for you. I said, shut up, get out. So they invited me on November 3rd, which is my patron St. Martin's feast day. They invited me to Mount St. Mary's. And so there we're going through the day, and when I tell you our fight came to a climax, we were going, in my mind, we going blow for blow. Who am I kidding? It's God. I mean, I ain't gonna beat him. But he showed me the residence hall I'm about to live in. I said, that's a no. He talked to me about 6 more years of school. I said, that's a definitely no. And then we're going through, and I'm just so bitter. And my favorite story with Jesus is the agony in the garden, because that is a Jesus I can relate to. He looked at what God was calling him to do. He said, my Father, if anything else can happen, let that happen. And so I turned the corner. All the seminarians are in this shrine, and the other discerners, and they're looking in this little cove. And I said, what is going on? I turned the corner, and I'm looking at an image, and I didn't quite recognize it at first. And somebody was like, isn't that a beautiful image of the agony in the garden? I said, Jesus, that's how you gonna do me? With that story? And I knew in that moment, I said, it doesn't matter that I don't want to do it. God's calling me to do this. And there's only one answer. I said, fine, let's do this. And when I finally did, God took that fine. He said, yes, sir. And it became an okay. It became a yes. It became, you called me. It became, you called me. And now I cannot tell you how excited I am to become a seminarian. And people ask, I know, hey, the seminary is a discernment process. Listen, I don't know what Jesus is going to do, but let me just tell you about you looking at one of the best priests you ever seen. You know what? And I recognize that is not because I'm going to do anything great, but I am going to prepare myself to be the best instrument this man's ever used. And so I encourage you, if you heard something last night or at any point, or you will hear something, I encourage you You don't have to say yes at first, but don't put it down and put it away. If you hear him saying something to you, you go back and forth with him because our God can take it. And by the end of that fight, I promise you will find peace. And when God's love enters, there is nothing greater, my friends. So say yes when you are ready. And I tell you, see, people say God waits. God don't wait. God pursues. God chases. He kicks down walls and tears down lies. God will find you. Be open to him, and the peace of Christ will set you free. Have a wonderful day, brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Ricky.